up, my fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork here with the Disco Dork for another review. This is episode 4 for the final season, Game of Thrones. Season 8, of course, we don't have the title because they always keep that secretive to avoid any type of spoilers. But by the time this gets posted, the title will be up, so just check the title of this video. Anyway, let's dive into this episode 4, episode 71, I think it was titled. The aftermath. The aftermath of the long night. The battle with the Night King. So we kind of follow up, and there's they're doing the ritual where they're about to burn the bodies, and we get a moment with the first shot we see is of the dead body of Jorah, which they pay respects to, and then also with Sansa and Theon with her mourning over his body as well. And Jon gives this great speech about just remembering and honoring the dead, the people that sacrificed their lives to fight, to win this fight, to win this battle, which I thought was a really, really great opening, especially from where we left off from last week. But those quiet moments, and we got a lot of those throughout this episode, which I know you're a big fan of, because you said you definitely wanted to get back to that because you weren't a fan of last week's episodes, which is duly noted.
Sorry, not sorry.
But
I don't gotta like that shit.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, there was a lot of issues with that, but I enjoyed the episode. But regardless of that, what you think of that opening, the aftermath of the battle, and then seeing them honor some of the fallen soldiers and some of the characters, some of the beloved characters that we've come to know over the last 8 seasons.
It was fine. It was cool. I just wanted to hurry up and get to
the
rest of the episode, which the episode does not disappoint. Like, this is, to me, this is a return to form because speaking about the last episode,
yeah.
We watched that episode, and then as soon as it ended, we recorded our recap, right? And in that recap, I stated I wasn't a huge fan of that episode because of the way it was shot, and then some narrative choices like that. The next morning, I wake up and like every article about last night's episode is online talking about how it was too dark and things like that. So I wasn't even. It wasn't even like I was bandwagon riding as far as like hating for that episode. It just, just what I said in our recap and our review was true. Like, that's just how I felt about that episode. And it's not like I'm not a fan of this show. Like, there were some people commenting on my lack of reaction to that episode while we were watching it, and it was just genuinely because like I just couldn't get invested into the episode just because of those issues that I had. So it's not like I don't like the show. My love for the show never stemmed from the battle at Blackwater, Hardhome, or Battle of the Bastards. While I enjoyed each of those particular episodes and those battles and how they were shot, my love for this show, and if you watch any of our recaps when we went back from season 1 on up, was the moments like in this particular episode, the moments like in episode 2 of this season, the moments between character interactions, a war of the minds and the words, not necessarily any type of physical skirmishes and stuff like that. And we get that in this episode when after paying homage to the Fallen, which I would expect coming off of such a large battle sequence and such a large loss of life. That was very fitting. But
we get to the celebration where there's a lot of stuff happening in this celebration,
right? And this is more of where I take interest because you get and I remarked when we were watching it this time. There's a shot where you see all the people at the head of the dining hall, which it was Tyrion, Sansa,
Jon,
Dany, and I kind of giggled in that, like, these are the heroes. They're celebrating their victory, and those people at the head are like the heroes of the show. But I was like, but in that one table, in that one shot, there's so much fucking drama, and like, they killed the Night King, but there's that table needs to be resolving by the end of this episode. You know what I mean?
It really does.
So for me, it was like, wasn't even like I could get happy about this celebration sequence because table,
there's so much more drama that's to come just from the people sitting at that table.
Yeah.
And the irony of that is that the people that was looking at that table, Davos and Tyrion, were on opposite sides of the battlefield during the Battle of Blackwater, and now their comrades commenting on the people at the head of that table, who are technically at opposing ends of some conflict that is sure to play out later this season.
And it feels like that, like after having sat with, and actually not even having sat with the previous episode, with the dispatching of the Night King so earlier and abruptly in this particular season, and it not playing out like many theories, and mine included, had suggested. You know, previously in the series, like when we talked about it when we were doing our recaps, how, you know, everyone in the Seven Kingdoms they're all concerned with their own infighting and squabbling, and we have this larger looming threat that's going to come and be the greatest threat ever. Well, the show kind of, you know, subverts that particular expectation in that the greatest threat. And again, it made me appreciate them dispatching the Night King last episode, because when I was watching, I was like, really, that's it? Y'all were killing this early?
Yeah.
But
you sit and think about it a little bit more. Yeah.
But the threat, because you look at the relationship between the Night King and Jon, or the Night King and Arya, like, yeah, it was a cool moment, but as far as like any type of personal investment in her defeating that great foe, it pales into comparison to what this episode seems to be setting up as the greatest confrontation of the series at the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's more. To me, it feels like there's more stakes, because even though the stakes felt high with the Army of the Dead, it was more so just due to the fact of like, okay, they could just literally obliterate everybody. But this, I feel like the stakes are a little bit more higher
because they're more personal.
Yeah, because they're more personal, and these are characters that we've been invested in.
Right.
So it's like when we get to the end of the episode, what happens to Missandei, we're more invested into loss of life, because these are more characters that we're more, and the conflict between these characters who we've been invested on both sides of it. Because I'm sure there's going to be feelings if something were to happen to Cersei, even though she's basically turned into like this evil queen, but following her through her journey, and like Tyrion was saying about her children, but we'll get to all that at the end. But yeah, going to your point, I think this is the bigger threat, because as an audience and people who love the show, we are invested in all these characters. You know what I'm saying? So, but let's get back to the celebration. So we talked a little bit about that head table, but let's get into some of the little intricacies of the characters. Let's start with let's start with Gendry, because that was kind of the first thing.
That's a big moment for him. You know, like Tyrion said, that what happens in this scene is a fitting reward for his bravery, and, you know, him fighting that fight, but also just being who he has been throughout the entire series. So, you know, at this celebration, in a scene that seemed like Dany was about to, I don't know,
because I remember, because she doesn't know Gendry from anything, but so when she called his name when he was walking by, and knowing the Baratheons' history with the Targaryens, even though he was a bastard, I was like, oh shit. Because I'm always on the edge of my seat that somebody's going to do some red wedding type shit. So I was like, oh fuck, what's about to happen? And I was like, oh, but, you know, and she kind of, you know, she subverts that a little bit, and offers him to be Lord of Storm's End. And he even mentions
offer, she just appoints it to him. So.
And when she tells, like, she knows who he is, he even says, look, my father died before I even knew I was a Baratheon. And she can't really hold that against, but he still has the name and has his blood. But I was a little nervous, and then
I gotta admit, like, I was, but you know what I was nervous of and what I thought was about to happen. The rest of the episode plays into that fear that I had. I thought she was gonna be beholden to, you know, the history between the Baratheons and the Targaryens, and be fueled by emotion and anger and a need for vengeance or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought that conversation was about to go in a direction led by that particular mentality or that emotional headspace or whatever, right? But it doesn't. But in a way, it's still not a genuinely noble gesture.
It doesn't feel genuine.
Because not even feel. She tells Tyrion.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
right? I did that because basically, and I'm paraphrasing. I did that because, he's loyal to me because of all this that we just went through, and because I just gifted him that. So that's going to be a useful ally in the future. So it was a power play, which falls in line with the theme of the show and her learning. How to play the game of Thrones, right? Yeah. And so I thought that was interesting.
So the next thing I guess would be, I guess we could talk a little bit about.
What about Sansa and the Hound?
Okay, we could get to that first. I was gonna go to. Oh God, I can't even think of her name now. Brienne. I was thinking. But
Sansa and the Hound happens first.
Okay, so let's do Sansa and the Hound, which is a great callback to season 2. I want to say after the Battle of Blackwater.
Yeah,
and he's about to leave King's Landing, and they have that great scene, and I think it was in her quarters. Right before he leaves, and we get the call back to Little Bird, but I thought was a really good scene.
And having watched the rest of the episode after this scene, now in retrospect, this scene it plays perfectly as a goodbye scene, right? Because
that's right, because the Hound leaves.
He goes with Arya, and he's not. I don't think he's coming back.
I think a lot of people that left Winterfell may not want to come back.
But based on how this dialogue plays out with this scene between Sansa and the Hound, if he lives and he does come back, it'd be a really cool return for him to come and just stay with her.
Right? It would be. It would be.
But that scene, she before she approaches the Hound, Tormund and actually, it does happen after Brienne leaves because Tormund is like left high and dry. So these maidens come and they offer their services to Tormund and also the Hound, who the Hound continuously rejects, and he just wants to be left alone, as the Hound does.
Normally
right?
does, yeah.
And Sansa sees this and she comes over. She uses this as an opportunity to speak to him, and basically it all boils down to. The Hound recognizing that, she's grown, she's come a long way, and him saying, well, because you've gone through a lot, all this crazy shit that you went through, you would have never had to go through that if you'd just come with me.
Yeah.
Which, it works twofold, right?
It does. It does.
It shows that even back then, because even back then, you're wondering, okay, why what is his intentions in trying to get her to leave, right? And then throughout the series, we kind of go back and forth of maybe is Hound a good guy or is he doing this selfishly or whatever. But we see through his relationship with both Stark sisters, both Arya and Sansa, that he has been, as brutal as he can be, that the show excels in having these characters with these gray areas, and then no one's just black or white, no one's just strictly good or evil, right? Whether it be Jaime, whether it be Cersei, whether it be Tyrion, whether it be Dany, whether it be the Hound, right? And so this goes a long way to just solidify that even back then, the Hound was a noble person.
He was,
right, and he genuinely cared for their well-being, right?
He did.
And he had the most noble of intentions even back then.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's pretty cool because now that we have this scene and this has become crystallized, any rewatch is going to play much better with that character, right?
Yeah.
So, but it works twofold for him to crystallize that. But then also what she says, well,
if she didn't go through the stuff,
if it wasn't for Ramsay, Littlefinger, I would still be a little bird if I'd stayed in King's Landing.
Exactly.
So that is the crystallization of Sansa going from this, this whiny, I want to be a prince, and I'm this person to becoming this strong woman, because he also mentions at the beginning of that conversation, because she's looking at him as he's like, I just want to be left alone. I don't want to be here. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you what I want. Just get the fuck out of here. And he says, you used to not be able to stand looking at me.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? And she says, well, I've seen a lot worse than you. Right?
She has.
So, this whole scene goes to, it crystallizes and encapsulates just how far she's come, how she's no longer afraid of him. Right? And, just the things in life that our trials and our trauma serve to harden the skin where that wound is and create a scar of hardened skin that's harder than any other skin that hasn't been scarred before.
Yeah.
And she is a new person. She is a stronger person.
Even
the way she exits that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
When she steps up and she walks off, she does it with her head up, right? Yeah. And not out of fear, but out of choice. I'm done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a great scene.
It really was. And again, like, this is the type of stuff in the show that I like. This is the, nothing wrong with a battle scene to get you excitement, but seeing this with characters is the stuff
I think majority of people really like this stuff. But
I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying the people who, does he never watch this show because he's not reacting to all this exciting shit. Like,
but this is the stuff you prefer.
But this is the stuff I prefer. Because it's a great scene.
Well, no, it is. And I think if you go back and look at the history of the show, these are the things that stand out, are these little moments, little character moments that, sometimes we don't see on the first watch, but it's always stuff that stays with us in the back of our minds. But continuing in that celebration, let's get to Brienne.
I was going to say the doomed romance.
Yeah, Brienne, Pod, Tyrion, and Jaime are all having drinks. And the first thing that came to my mind in this scene was them playing this little drinking game, is just how happy Brienne looked.
And you know what? Her smiling. I just had a bad feeling about it, man. I was like, "You too happy right now. You fucked now because it's a wreck. Because you got happy. So this show does not like to let anyone have their happiness."
Yeah. So I guess they're playing this little drinking game where if they say something truthful about the other person,
it's like they're playing the Westeros version of Never Have I Ever.
Yeah. Never Have I Ever. Yeah. So they're having fun and they're playing the game, and Tyrion says, "Oh, you're a virgin." And then Pod just
takes a drink. Nah, man, I've been slaying that thing,
son. So then that just halts everything. I was feeling good. I was like, man, Brienne's having such a good time, and I was like, God damn it, Tyrion, you had to just ruin everything. But it just, and how it just kind of leads into what we're going to ultimately see between Jaime and Brienne.
Let's just talk about that. Just go right into. As a matter of fact, let's just go right into that, and then how that plays with Jaime leaving.
Yeah. Let's just talk about their just relationship in this whole episode. So Jaime and Brienne. So he goes up to her room, to her quarters, and he's a bit drunk. He's got some wine. He's like, "Look, we didn't finish playing the game. You got to take a drink." It's like, he's pulling the classic move. It's like, damn, it's so hot in here.
Well, I get. So part of me is like, okay, is he running game or because she got a raging fire?
She does.
He got her on multiple layers.
They do a good job of opening the scene with her putting wood in the fire. So okay,
and plus he's drunk. And when you drinking, you get high, and he got like the dope leather joint he got on. So I don't know. I kind of see where it could go either way. But yeah,
but when he knocks on that door, we all know what's ultimately how that scene is going to end.
Oh yeah. I don't like.
I felt the same way.
I don't like that. I don't like that the narrative went that way for that character, only because I knew it wasn't going to end good for Brienne. She was going to be heartbroken because you got to think those two characters, they can never be together.
They can't, right? And that's the thing. And that's the thing. I didn't want them to try to solidify or consummate that attraction that they had for each other. I just liked it the way it was. But once they did that, I was like, I don't know if that's good for the story. I get it for the characters, because especially for Brienne, because we know how she feels about Jaime. But story wise, I just didn't want to see that.
Yeah, and not because I don't think that they make a good couple, because I knew in my mind that Jaime's story isn't going to end with Brienne. Jaime's story has to end with Cersei, right? Yeah. For better or for worse, like however it's going to be, like them killing each other or whatever. His story's going to have to end with her. So if they do this, then that's going to leave Brienne heartbroken, because Jaime, whenever he goes to King's Landing to confront Cersei, he ain't coming back, right? Yeah. And so I just felt like, damn, like they're just setting Brienne up for heartbreak. And I thought that was going to happen, like in the penultimate episode or in the final episode, but now like it happens in this episode, right? So they do consummate their feelings for each other. Some other scenes happen, but Jamie ends up
towards the end. It's when he leaves.
Right. Jamie ends up making a decision because he gets some news of an attack that takes out one of the dragons, which we'll talk about. Yeah. Jamie's like, all right, my sister is going ape shit. It's like super ape shit. I gotta go deal with this. I have to go back to King's Landing because they're gonna need me. Because they're taking the fight to King's Landing. So I gotta go. And Brienne wakes up one night and she sees Jamie has left. She greets him in the driveway, basically with the robe on the driveway. But what you doing? Come back in the house.
Where you going? It's cold out here.
And Jamie's like, yo, I gotta go to King's Landing. And he tells her, she says,
you're a good man.
You're a good man. Just stay here with me. And Jamie realized, and he's verbalizing why I thought it was a bad idea for them to get together, because he's done so much that I just don't foresee him having the happy ending, right? Like, he says, I'm a good man. He confesses to what he did to Bran. I pushed the child out the window, paralyzing him for the rest of his life, right? Killing my cousin.
And he did all this for Cersei.
He said, I pushed the child out the window for Cersei. I killed my cousin with my bare hands for Cersei. Like, I did all these things to get back to Cersei. Everything always comes back to Cersei. Yeah. And so I feel like in this moment, he's not telling her this to say, so I got to go back to her because I love her. But I feel like he's saying that all these things lead back to her. I have to break this cycle.
Exactly.
We just got the news of this crazy shit that just happened. We just lost a dragon and our armies are depleted.
Yeah, Missandei's kidnapped.
So I got to go break this cycle, and because it ends with her. And so he tells her, I have to go, and she begs him to stay, but he rides off, and so in that moment we get Brienne's heartbreak,
and he says it. And I said this during the reaction, which you'll see that video as well. That it reminded me of the Good Will Hunting moment between Will and Skylar when he says to her. She says to him, look, if you tell me that you don't love me, then I'll let you go and you can walk and we'll never see each other again, or something like that. And he says, I don't love you, knowing that he loves her. And I think in a similar fashion, not directly comparable, but when Jamie says, like, I'm not, like, you say I'm a good man, I'm not a good man.
He said that Cersei is hateful, and he said,
I'm hateful.
I'm hateful too.
I'm hateful too. But I think that's him. It's more so just the intentions of him saying that to Brienne, knowing ultimately what he has to confront and what he has to do, but knowing that was going to hurt her.
I think he's just. I don't think he's trying to hurt. I think he's just trying to justify him leaving her.
But it did hurt her though.
Well, he could have said, I love you, but I have to go. And it still would have hurt her. Him leave, because all she wanted was him to stay there. So,
okay, you're right. Just for him, almost to justify the reason for him to leave.
I gotta leave. Yeah, no matter what he said, she still would want him to stay. Because all of his reasons were valid.
They were.
But, and again, that's why when they got together, as soon as he knocked on that door, I was like, I knew that scene was going to play out at some point.
It had to, because we know that Jamie and Cersei have to confront each other before the season is over. Yeah. And it was all going to have to lead back to that.
So, and it's even more heartbreaking because of episode 2 in this season. Brienne had such a great moment with Jamie and being knighted. Yeah. And the two things that she really cared about, that the honor of being knighted, but then also that recognition and having that honor bestowed upon her by someone that she had gone through so much with and become so affectionate towards. The highs, right? Yeah. And in this show, you get up there, the show's gonna right from up under you, and the fact that it had to be in this way that's heartbroken. But
so I guess let's talk about Jon and Dany, but let's start at the celebration, because then I want to get to that war council scene where they're trying to get to their plans. But before we get to that scene, because that leads into everything.
So we would start with the dining room scene, the celebration, but we also got to go to the bedroom scene.
Well, that's where I want to go then to that. But I want to talk about that the dining hall scene and the bedroom scene, because in the dining hall scene we have a scene between Tormund and Jon. So Tormund Tormund is talking to Jon about, oh man, you know, like this man was riding the dragon. Like,
well, it's important to know he's not just talking to Jon. He's having this. He's talking to everyone.
Well, he's talking to everybody about who, like, why they respect Jon, why they follow him, and like, Dany's sitting there
she
by
hears
herself, and you know, and. What caught me is the simple fact that Tormund was just because he was drunk going off, and you know he's saying this stuff about, you know, the fact that he died. So that made me think about something that was mentioned last season. So because I don't think Dany knew that Jon died and Melisandre brought him back to life. Now I don't know if that has anything.
But what is? I'm going to ask you, like, what does that matter though?
And that's the thing. I don't know. But the show has made a point to
keep her in the dark about it.
Yeah, and the fact that came up again, and you can see that they specifically cut away to her when Tormund kept saying like, oh man, yeah, he died and he came back and blah, this and that. I don't know if that like means that, okay,
does that play into any, like,
as far as him being like the heir or anything?
Does that play into any of like the prophecies of like the prince who was promised type shit maybe? Or,
I don't know.
I don't know like why that would be, because to her the biggest issue is the fact that he's the rightful heir and she wants the throne.
Exactly. But the only reason it stood out to me is because last season when Davos was talking about Jon Snow, he was like, yeah, he took a knife to the heart. And later on, she was talking to Tyrion, and he was like, what was that line? What was that thing that Davos said about him taking a knife to the heart? And Tyrion was just like, you know, the Northern, they have these flights of fancies or something like that. And she was like, oh, okay. And so they specifically had that in their last season. So when they had this, and they specifically showed Dany listening to that, I was like, oh shit. Like, I don't know why the show feels like it's making that point.
It didn't come back up this episode, but if it's something prominent, it makes sense to hold off on it, because this episode does make it feel more so than any other before it. Does make it feel like it's building towards a definitive confrontation between the two. Like,
Dany and Jon.
Yeah, they're going to have to confront Cersei, but like you were saying, like this show, it's the end of it. Like, Jon's greatest adversary, it does, and Dany's greatest adversary, it seems like it's going to be each other.
It feels that way.
They're probably going to dispatch Cersei or deal with Cersei the next episode, yeah. But then that final episode is going to come down to them dealing with each other.
I think so. Let's get to that bedroom scene. So she comes in. You know, Jon says he's not drunk, but clearly he is. Clearly he is. But this is because now this is actually the continuation of the conversation that they had from the crypts right before the Night King came outside of Winterfell.
So she basically doesn't want Jon to tell anyone.
He doesn't want Jon. Wants her to keep a secret.
Even though Jon is like, yo, I don't want the throne. I'm going to bend the knee to you. You're my queen.
And
I don't
she says
care.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And everyone's saying that. You know, there's a scene later on with between Varys and Tyrion. And Tyrion's like, yo, but Jon doesn't want the throne. And Varys like, yo, that doesn't much matter. It doesn't matter what he wants. So, and Dany already knows this. And she's saying, like, there's a way. You can't say anything to anybody. There just has to stay between you and I. If you just don't tell anybody, and I'll take the throne, and then we're good. But Jon, being who he is,
such an honorable man, he can't lie.
He can't lie, and definitely he can't lie to his family.
No.
And Dany doesn't want him to say anything to Arya and Sansa. And so for Jon to have this secret between these people, you know, between he and these people that he loves or views as his family, that would just betray who he is as a person.
Exactly.
And you know, it really is unfair to Jon, for Dany to even ask that of him, to betray his own character. That'd be like asking Dany. That'd be like Jon asking Dany, well, since I'm the rightful heir, can you just go ahead and not try to get the throne then? Because that's who she is, right? That's who she
is, and that's what she's been, or what she feels is her destiny.
It's her destiny, right? And so she's kind of asking Jon to, you know, not stay true, to betray yourself, right? Betray your own morals, and Jon can't do that. And we see that motherfucker. Who did he tell? Oh yeah, he tells Sansa and Arya. What, you know what? He told her he was gonna let her. Basically, he told her so many words that he was, and you could see in that scene that at that moment, that's when it set them on It put her. All right, you get at the starting line that way, and you get over here that way, and
boom.
You're ready. And
it's coming.
It started. I think it genuinely started.
Yeah.
And definitively started in this particular scene. So they're heading for a collision course of ideals.
Yeah. So then we get to that war council scene. So we're learning about where all their forces are. There's not many Dothraki. Some Unsullied left, and they're trying to figure out who's going to go where. So we're going to take
because they're not just taking all of their forces and going straight
down.
Landing,
some are going to Dragonstone. Danny and some of the people are going there. John and Davos are going to ride down to King's Landing. So they're just trying to devise their whole plan, trying to get their strategy and everything in order. But you can cut the tension with a knife in this scene when it comes, especially between Sansa and Danny. And we're starting to see a lot of that come forth now, and I think continuing.
And that's actually been that shit actually was established since episode 1 of this season.
It's the first episode,
but you see
it's
coming to a head now.
Yeah, you see it here. And I think it's more so evident because of the previous scene in the bedroom between John, because the way that scene ends is like. Danny tells John there is a choice, and basically she's saying just don't tell anybody.
Yeah, so if you choose your family over me, then we gonna have problems.
There's gonna be a problem, and so we're seeing a little bit of Danny's little animosity or a little bit of her attitude kind of spill over into this war council meeting. That they're having in this,
and John's walking a tightrope, right? Because in this particular scene. At the end of this strategy meeting, he basically sides with Danny.
Yeah.
In front of his sisters, right? And they call him on that shit. Yeah. Arya's like, "Yo, we need to go talk. Come on, dog.
We need to talk now.
We need to go out back." And they do. And in this particular scene, it's when John decides to confide in them. Well, no, make Bran tell him.
Well, I know, which I thought with the way this shot was blocked and the way they framed it. So you have Sansa and Arya, and Bran is just right behind them in the middle,
being a creep in the background.
And first of all, Bran knows all this shit. So I'm just thinking, what the fuck is he thinking right now? He's just sitting there. It's Arya and Sansa don't know shit, and then Bran's like, "All right, John, what are you gonna do?"
He says your choice, and John's like, "All right, you two have to promise me that you won't tell anybody." And they're like, "All right, I promise." He's like, "Okay, Bran, you tell him." Because I ain't got the guts to tell him. Tell him what you told me.
Oh man. So, and we know as soon as that comes out, the shit ain't gonna be a secret no further. And of course, Sansa tells Tyrion.
She let that shit go fast, bruh. That was the next scene or some shit like that. Damn, you ain't even wait till the sun go up and come down. Damn.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because there's a couple different scenes with Tyrion. Now, this is after Tyrion and Varys find out. So right before the ambush on the boats.
So Tyrion and Varys find out, but they have a pretty important scene too as it relates to their characters and their relationship, because this show has done an amazing job of making them have a very interesting relationship.
Yeah, they were really interesting dynamic.
And this particular scene kind of puts them.
Well, they have the one on the boat or the one in the throne room?
The one in the throne room, because they have a Danny and John bedroom moment that puts them on at odds, right?
Well, let's talk about that before we get to the attack. So the Varys and Tyrion scene. So.
Right. So Varys is, as he's always been, and he states it in this scene, Varys is always first and foremost his main concern and his main priority is the betterment of the realm, right? And so, as Tyrion can plainly see, Varys is noticing that Danny has, more and more, she's been exhibiting signs that maybe she's not the best fit for this throne, right?
And he poses that to Tyrion. He was like, between the two of them, who do you think would be a better ruler?
And Tyrion can't outright say Danny,
he's like,
because he knows,
treason. Yeah, it could be
right?
treason.
And so Tyrion is, it's almost like when Tyrion is talking to Varys, Tyrion is still trying to convince himself. He's saying, "Yo, I believe in Danny," and so he at this moment, and at the very least during this conversation, he's still siding with Danny, and
but he's conflicted.
He's conflicted, and Varys minus that confliction doesn't have that, because he doesn't have the feelings for Danny that Tyrion does, and it's understandable, not just because Varys is a freaking eunuch, but he hasn't gone through and had the relationship with Tyrion, with Dany that Tyrion has. So it's understandable. But again, that's to Varys his benefit, right? Because he can see clearly, he can think clearly without being blinded by any type of emotional investment. In that, Jon, maybe it's not a bad thing for the ruler to be someone who doesn't want to be a ruler, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to come from a place of being power hungry or whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He'd come from a place of benevolence, right? And so Varys is trying to make his case, and Tyrion is trying to make his case. But at the end of that conversation, it's very similar to Dany and Jon's conversation in that bedroom. Like, all right, I hear what you're saying. I love you, but I love my family. This is my family, and I can't lie to them. So I'm going to have to stay true to myself. And Varys is saying the same thing to Tyrion. Like, yo, you my dog, and Dany's cool and all, but the betterment of the realm is my priority. I have to stay true to that and to them.
Exactly.
And so he said, we both said our truths to each other, and we both have a decision to make.
Yep.
And same thing with Dany. Like, yo, you got a decision to make.
Yeah.
So it puts all four of these characters in a parallel, like,
it's going to come down to they're going to have to make a decision as far as what side of the fence they lie on. So so let's get to the attack. So they're the Unsullied, and we have Tyrion is there. I think
Grey Worm and Missandei.
Grey Worm and Missandei, Tyrion and even Dany's riding Drogon. So Drogon and Rhaegal, the dragons, are riding above the fleet, heading to Dragonstone. And one of the shocking moments, the surprising moments for me, was Rhaegal getting that spear to the chest.
As soon as that happened, do you know? This goes into one of my theories, but it was super foreshadowing to me.
Really?
Whose dragon is that?
I know Jon's. Yeah, and the dragon that's named after his father. Yeah.
So I'm like, because it's my theory that Jon's going to die, right?
Yeah.
Because of that conversation in the bedroom, the only way for Dany to take that throne, because Jon will not be silent about it, the secret's it's not even a secret now, it's very said, it's information now, because more than 8 people know. Right?
Yeah.
So in order for Dany to take that throne, Jon has to not be alive, because he will always be the rightful heir. People in the North ain't going to follow.
They're not going to follow Dany,
right?
No.
And they can't get married, right?
Yeah,
the only logical conclusion to that, if Dany's going to sit on that throne, is Jon has to not be alive. Right?
Yeah, and that's what I took away from that scene in the bedroom.
Right.
I was like, fuck, man.
Right, and so then we get the scene with his dragon dying, and to me, that just felt like foreshadowing. You know what I'm saying?
God, man.
So... But that also goes to serve another purpose in that, again, this episode, there's this theory that Dany is going to follow in the footsteps of the Mad King, and she's going to end up being the Mad Queen, right?
Yeah.
That may be a theory. It may not pan out, but for the conspiracy theorists, this episode gave him a fuck ton of ammo.
Hell yeah.
A fuck ton of ammo. There's so many things happening that are pushing her to, if she does go mad, you could not be mad. You couldn't blame her. You know what I'm saying?
And all the signs that you could track everything leading to that, so it makes a lot of sense.
So with Rhaegal dying, and then we have what's his name, Euron.
Euron Greyjoy. So
commencing an attack on the fleet.
Yeah, and your boy Tyrion, man, that scene where they turn those fucking spears onto their fleet and start shooting them. Oh man, dude. I mean, I knew your boy wasn't going to get it.
I didn't think he was going to. It still was harrowing. It was intense, but my concern was for Grey Worm.
Because you did mention in the reaction that he was like, oh shit, Grey Worm about to get it.
About to get it, but it was something that actually turned out to be much worse. So in that attack, a lot of people went overboard, and your fear was that Tyrion, when it cut to black, your fear was Tyrion got captured and was going to be taken to Cersei. Yeah, but it was actually Missandei.
Yeah, because the way it ends, when it goes to black, it's on Tyrion, and I'm like, shit. Because if they kidnap Tyrion and he goes back to King's Landing, that's not going to be good for him at all. But they end up getting Missandei.
Yeah.
And there's an ending to that.
And so, you want to get to that, because
I think
Because we could talk about the shot at King's Landing where basically Cersei in a power play and a strategic move is she's trying to show goodwill and win the hearts and minds and allow the people safety in the confines of the inner walls of the Red Keep, but really they're just human shields. It's just Operation Human Shield from South Park. And so that plays into like the next scene. So, but isn't it advised before that? Don't we have another scene when Varys advises her like, "Yo, this is a mistake." I think she says, "Yo, you saw my baby get shot out the sky."
Yeah, I think that was in the council room at Dragonstone. He does have like a little scene with her. He's like, "Look, I told you I would look you in the face if I ever told you there was you were making a mistake." And he was like, "You're making a mistake here."
Right, because now in Cersei, I think Cersei knows that she's betting on, Dany to slip up because of. To act out of emotion and rage, right? And even if that ain't her intentions, it's benefiting Cersei because that's exactly what Dany is doing. And even she does say at the end of that council, she does say, "All right, just to say that I did it, so they can't count it against me. I'm gonna go talk to her. I'm gonna go ask for a formal surrender." Yeah, and that's when we get. The
scene with the final scene. But I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the goodbyes leaving Winterfell. Because Tormund says goodbye to Jon,
which I feel like that's the. I think that's the last time we're going to see Tormund. Because he's going back up north of the Wall. Right, he's going to take the Wildlings.
Yeah, because he has no stakes in anything going on.
And even though they were offered land there, he says they need room to roam. That's just who they are as a people. They don't have the threat of the White Walkers up there. They can roam even further up north. So it makes sense, and I understand that
does make sense. I think that would be a fitting ending for him and for the Wildlings, for their people, and also for Ghost. Because that was one thing last week. Because remember, he was in the charge with the Dothraki and Jorah in that first wave. But then after that, we never saw him, and people were like, "What the fuck happened to Ghost?
Ghost just played dead. He was in the snow. He was blending in with the snow. He was like, I'm just gonna blend in the snow right here and lay low."
But we see that he got pretty fucked up in that battle.
He lost the ear.
Yeah, man, he was all bruised up. But it was good to see him back, and Jon tells Tormund to take Ghost up north because that's where he belongs. And
so Jon definitely ain't coming back. You giving away your dog, bro?
Yeah, man. And the goodbye he has to Sam and Gilly, which was really sweet. It was. Nice.
Sam is a daddy now, like a daddy. Not just a stepdaddy. He's a daddy now. He's like, "Yo, it wasn't nothing to do, and it wasn't nothing to do in the end, and we only read all the books, and it was kind of cold, so we had to keep warm, and so we got busy, and I made a baby."
You think that's the last time we'll see Sam and Gilly?
I think so. Now, there might be some type of
epilogue
scene or whatever. But I think.
But as far as like their stories, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm happy.
And if because you think about it, if that is the last time, as fans, you would probably want to see Sam, but narratively, do we need to see Sam? Like if they don't show him anymore, I feel like it's a fitting goodbye.
And he served his purpose in the first half of this season with having to tell Jon about being a Targaryen and dealing with the fact that Dany killed her family. I mean, Sam has had a lot of.
He's been the bearer of a bunch of pertinent information.
So he's had a lot of stuff to do in this season.
And as a character, he's done a complete 180. He's come a long way from where we first met him, like who he was. He was like this cowardly person. This dude has been through multiple battles, killed White Walkers. Helped this woman, helped raise her kid, fathered his own child. So he's had a complete arc. So one could feel satisfied with Sam's ending if this is his ending.
And it makes sense because with 2 episodes left, it feels like we have to deal with all our main players.
There's so much,
it's like
bunch left.
Yeah, so all the characters that we love, like Sam and Tormund and all these other characters, it just feels like, okay, we're saying goodbye to them. They're in a good place, but now these last 2, all our main players, it all comes down to them. But the final scene, let's get to that before we close this out. So we get to the gates of King's Landing, And so we get a scene between the Hand and the Hand, Tyrion and Qyburn. Yeah. And so they're meeting, and Tyrion says, like, look, we'll accept Cersei's surrender if she gives up Missandei. And Qyburn's like, well, she'll accept your surrender. If not, then, she'll murder Missandei. And so, like, okay, where we go from here? And it's a bit of, I don't want to say battle of the wits.
No, Tyrion tries to appeal to that little light of spark of goodness, that little piece of goodness that he sees in Cersei as far as her being a mother and her love for her children.
Yeah, because he bypasses Qyburn and walks up to the gate to try to talk directly to Cersei.
And another moment that leads me to believe that she is not pregnant, right? Because he mentions her previous kids that she has lost.
Oh, yeah.
And he says that, I know you don't care about the people in King's Landing, but at the very least, just do it for your child, your unborn child or whatever. And Cersei, she is still steadfast in her ways, and she orders Missandei's execution. She tells her, if you have any last words... Cryptically, Missandei's last word is Dracarys.
Which if you guys know, and again, let us know in the comments. I didn't know why that would be her last. It could be cryptic.
I don't know if that was a sign to Dany that, hey, she's not about to concede. So go ahead and just. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Or I didn't know if Dracarys was going to come and light the wall on fire or whatever. I just didn't know because we don't see a payoff to her saying that. So maybe there's a payoff to her saying that in the next episode, but I don't know. And then when she said it, she didn't even say it loud enough for friggin'...
I know, for Drogon to hear it.
Anyone to hear it besides who was on that wall. So I was like...
It's not even Tyrion who was at the bottom of the fucking wall.
Yeah, I don't know. That was an odd choice of word.
Yeah, I mean, and
but always... and also it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah, and character and narrative wise, when we think about Grey Worm and Missandei, granted they're not main players and main characters, but they're characters that, for me personally, I've come to love and love their story and love their romance that they have together, and especially going back to episode 2 when they had that moment where basically this season episode 2 where Grey Worm is like, look man, we don't belong up here, like we're like, look, once we deal with this shit with the Night King, where you trying to go? Like, come on, boo, where you trying to go?
Because he said that is exactly why she lost her head in this episode.
We thought it was going to be him.
Yeah, but you can't have them type of speeches in this show, in any movie or show or whatever, man. Well, that means somebody's going to die.
I know. So it was sad to see. And plus, she bad.
She bad. But also, it's another, this is one of those things that I was saying, like, this episode has been going out of its way to position that some truth to that theory that Dany will become like the Mad Queen, because obviously she just suffered the loss of one of her dragons, and now one of her best friends and most trusted advisor, she just saw her beheaded. And you could see Dany's facial expression. She's like, "Oh, this motherfucker's gonna burn." Like, I'm kidding, because she even mentioned earlier on about how, they're saying like, "Yo, Dany, you got to rethink this." When Varys was telling her this is not a good idea, Dany, you got to rethink this, because she's only inviting those people inside. Basically as a human meat shield. Like, if you go in there and burn that city, you're going to kill all these innocent people. And Dany was like, yo, my destiny is to rule the world, rid the world of tyrants, and by any means necessary, basically. So that mentality, coupled with you just kill my baby and you just chop my girl head off, all y'all motherfuckers going to die. I don't care if it's kids, women, children in the wall, or whatever.
Then who's the real tyrant?
Again, leading to that theory about the Mad Queen. But what I'm saying is, like, that act right there might have been the straw.
Yeah, that broke the camel's back. Yeah, no, I agree, because the way the show ends on that shot with Dany walking away, and you can see the rage.
Oh, it's go time for her.
There's
nothing Tyrion can say, nothing Varys can say. There ain't shit Jon could say to her. I don't think, based on her facial expression and based on everything that's happened to her up to this point, that's going to change her mind. She's ready to go now.
Yep, and it's about to go down. We all know 2 episodes episodes left. Next episode is the penultimate episode. If you're familiar with Game of Thrones and the history of these seasons, the second to last episode, some ill shit always goes down. So I'm expecting some ill shit to happen in this second to last episode.
But the crazy thing, I think some ill shit's gonna go down in both the penultimate and the final episode. Like it's gonna go out with a bang. I think
definitely. So can't believe it.
Because Danny, she want all the smoke. She want all. And seriously, want all the smoke too.
I know. You're right.
So
who is about to go down? I can't believe 2 episodes in the seat. Oh my God, it's over. It's almost over.
That's crazy.
Let's savor these next 2 weeks. Anyway, that's our review for Game of Thrones episode 4. Let us know, excuse me, let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Let's start the conversation. And as always, check out our other dorks. At Mouth Dork, at Sidewalk Siren, at WB Das. This guy is the Disco Dork. I am the Turtle Dork. See, I did get it right.
Got it right.
And with that, we're out.